Hello, everybody. It's me again, and I'm here to talk to you about something entirely different, Menhera. So I am not currently wearing Menhera, as I am not magical enough to be able to pull off a dress change between that last panel and this one, but just imagine that I am in Menhera. All right, so I'm going to start off by talking about some misconceptions about Menhera so that I can kind of break down all of those misconceptions, and then we're going to build it back up from the top. So first, I hear a lot, isn't it supposed to be Menhera K? K in Japanese, the suffix actually is used to indicate like stereotypes of or things associated with X. So it doesn't actually mean fashion or style or anything like that. And so when it's attached to Menhera, it means stereotypes of Menhera. And it is used in a very negative way, often sexist way, to kind of belittle women and women's issues. So we don't like to use Menhera K. It is just Menhera. I've also heard people say that they don't like Menhera because it's gory. Menhera itself actually rarely features gore, and if there is anything gory in it, it's there for a purpose. It's not there to be gory. It's there to illustrate something in the vent piece. A lot of times this misconception is because things that are actually goro kawaii will get tagged as Menhera, but that is actually a completely different fashion style. And then I've also heard, is Menhera only for the mentally chronically ill? Do you have to be ill enough to be Menhera? And hilariously, the people who have asked me this, all of them have had their own mental health or chronic health issues themselves. So they're not they already fit in, but you don't have to suffer from anything to be to wear Menhera or to interact with the Menhera community, because you interacting with the Menhera community and wearing Menhera still brings light to the issues that you're wearing in your Menhera piece and still helps better the mental health state of those around you. It's not just about mental illness or chronic illness. It's also just about helping each other live in a better mental state. So yes, you can enjoy it. You don't have to be sick enough to wear it, and you can wear themes that you may not necessarily identify with as well, because you're still spreading awareness about those. Another misconception I hear a lot is Menhera that drippy glitter eye makeup style? I think this is finally starting to fade a little bit out of the misconceptions, but this is because social media, you often have to mistag things to get them to show up, and unfortunately, a lot of people have mistagged drippy eye glitter as Menhera. Menhera, actually, you want to use light makeup or no makeup typically. There is no makeup style that is specifically Menhera. Some more misconceptions for you. I've heard a lot, oh, Menhera is a new trendy fashion. And we hear this because most people in the West did not find out about Menhera until the Refinery 29 video on Izaki Bizoko that happened a few years ago at this point. But Menhera is actually kind of a Japanese, not like a direct version, but it kind of evolved alongside the emo subculture, and it's been around since the early 2000s. And it just got popular even just in the States, really, in the last few years. I've also heard, isn't this using illness as a costume? It's not. Menhera is always clothing. You are a person wearing Menhera clothing. You may be a Menhera person in that you suffer with mental health or chronic health issues, or you as a person try to work to better the mental state of people around you. But you're always just wearing clothing. You're not wearing a costume. And if, in fact, if you are wearing something too costumey, then, well, that's not Menhera anymore. And our last misconception I hear is, I like Menhera, but it's out of my budget. Menhera is so simple that all you really need is a top with vent art on it. So you can DIY a top and wear it with jeans, and that counts as a Menhera outfit. You can buy a Menhera outfit from an indie artist on a print-on-demand site or anywhere, and you can repurpose something that may not have been intended to be Menhera, but has like a Menhera feeling from it, or is just vent art, and wear that as Menhera as well. So it is actually one of the most accessible styles to start out with, because you can just buy one shirt and a $25 shirt, and you can have a whole Menhera cord that's just that. All right, so now we've broken down all of those misconceptions, and now we're going to actually build back up what Menhera actually is. So here's a lovely diagram that Hoshi Dreams, who will be doing another couple of panels for us later today, made. So you can kind of see the silhouette of Menhera. It's usually loose fitting to make it more accessible to wear. Tight fitting clothing can be uncomfortable or painful for people, or people who may change size very frequently might have to get something loose fitting so that they know they'll always be able to wear it. You see a lot of pastels in the West, but you can be done in any color palette, and the OG Menhera was often black-white with a touch of red. And the cords are themed around a subject, so like depression, addiction, anxiety, or even simpler things like stress from schoolwork. You'll see LGBT themed prints a lot in Japan because of the mistreatment of LGBT people there. So really anything that you can consider something that causes you stress or something you want to vent about, you can make a piece, you can make a coordinate around that, you can make a vent piece design around that. Often in the West, we tend to focus more on the pills, medication, and hospital aesthetics. I think this is mostly due to the fact that we are a little bit better as far as mental health goes in America than Japan, but we still have a lot of stigmatization with medication and visible indicators of poor mental health or chronic illness. So I think just as a Menhera community, we tend to like those objects because those are what are on our mind right now. And you also want to wear flats when you're wearing Menhera. No heels. You can get away with some platform, but the idea is stuff that would be comfy, easy to wear. Anybody could wear these kind of shoes. And thigh highs are another common motif. So there's no strict set of bottoms you have to wear, but you'll see a lot of people will wear thigh highs because they're also something that's considered easy to wear since they just kind of go on your legs and stay there. And simple styling typically, so simple makeup, natural hair typically, though you can wear wigs in simpler stylings, and you don't have to have natural hair colors. You can have whatever hair colors you want, with limited accessories. And the focus with your accessories should be that they match the theme of your outfit. And you don't have to wear any accessories either. So for example, here, this art that Hoshi Dreams has done, I need to fix their name up there, but Hoshi Dreams has drawn only one accessory with this Menhera cord, which is the loose ball gag. So here's an example. Cupcake Vice, she does my favorite out of Western Menhera, my favorite coordinates, because they're all like very clearly practical, accessible, and often multi-purpose because they would commute in to the city and need something that was appropriate to wear in the commuting train and something that was appropriate to wear for whatever their destination was. So you can see Cupcake Vice incorporates a lot of matching totes and bags, practical to carry whatever she needs to carry, nice flat shoes that match the coordinate colors, multi-purpose outfits where you can wear it one way with the jacket if you're cold, but take the jacket off and it's still a cute coordinate if it gets too warm. Also, this is from a few years ago, so Cupcake Vice was rocking the Menhera face mask long before it was cool. And you'll notice this is not a flashy outfit. They don't have on a ton of accessories or any ridiculous garments or heavy makeup or anything like this. But this is really Menhera. Menhera is meant to be very practical, very comfy and casual. So another word you'll hear tossed around often is yami kawaii. Yami kawaii and Menhera have a lot of overlap, but they are two different things. Yami kawaii means using cute and kawaii motifs to address dark topics, and it's almost always limited to dark colors. It kind of evolved. It evolved out of an aesthetic of using the cute and kawaii motifs to address the dark topics, whereas Menhera came from the Menhera community of Japan. It was vent art that they were creating on the Menhera board of 2chan to kind of self-express. And within the board, people started saying, "Oh, I want to wear that piece you made," and it was very DIY to begin with, and a lot of like small artists making their vent art into pieces to share with the other people of the Menhera community. So it is important to remember when you're talking about Menhera, Menhera describes first the community of mental healthers in Japan and the activism around that. So this is a big part of why it really, really matters that you don't mislabel something as Menhera when it's not, because it's not just a fashion, it is a activism community that is trying to better the treatment of mental health and chronic health issues in Japan. And we don't want to add to the stigmatization and the issues they face by misusing the word Menhera. But that said, there's plenty of other words and styles to use for other fashions that might fit whatever it is you want to do a little bit better. And Menhera itself, the word came from mental healther. The board started out as a BPD board, and the members of the community got together and were like, hey, BPD doesn't really cover us. We'd like something more general. And they came up with the term Menheru from the English mental healther. So that is the actual basis of the word. So here's some more. I highly recommend when you want to do something that maybe breaks the rules of Menhera, but is still, event piece, like go right ahead. And you can call it Menhera inspired instead of Menhera if you want to be safe about using the words. So here I've got two people wearing very similar outfits, and one is a more casual style Menhera outfit, while the other is Menhera inspired, which is part of a photo shoot that me and Toshi did for a Menhera zine. So the zine itself became Menhera art because it dealt with dissociation as a topic, but the outfit by itself wasn't Menhera because it's a lot less accessible in styling, heavy makeup, heavy hairstyling, like styled for a photo shoot. And again, Menhera fashion is the clothing itself, and it's not really limited to art styles or colors as long as it's event piece and casual. And the art, on the other hand, is art. And as you can see, this art I did, she's not wearing any clothes. So clearly her outfit isn't Menhera, but it's still Menhera art because it's describing anxiety and intrusive thoughts, and it's event piece. So those are the distinguishings. You don't really have to worry in a general basis too much the differences, but it kind of gives you an idea of why Menhera might be used to describe one thing in art and something else when somebody is wearing it. So I get asked a lot about this is, well, how do you make sure that you're not causing harm to others who may be triggered by the work that you're wearing while balancing the need to express yourself? So especially in Japan, part of the point of Menhera fashion is to be loud and in your face to the general Japanese society, because Japanese society has a very big problem with hiding any illness and saying, oh, you can't talk about that. And if you talk about that, we're not going to hire you. We're not going to follow you. We're going to really look down on you if you try to say anything about your mental health or chronic health struggles. And the idea of Menhera is to kind of fight back against that and say, no, look, I'm wearing it here. You need to look at this and you need to acknowledge that this happens so that we can have a conversation about it and maybe work to make life better for everybody around us and stop stigmatizing people who may be suffering with these issues. So on the one case, in that sense, Menhera is kind of meant to be a little bit, quote unquote, triggering to general society. However, that said, when you are creating, especially online, when you're creating Menhera art and Menhera coordinates, if you're worried that something you're posting may be legitimately triggering to someone else, you can always start out with that censor image. You can always put a content warning. It's anything that is simple and easy to do like that, you should do to try and minimize the potential for harm for others. And we some side notes on that. No photos of active self-harm, obviously. Art depictions of self-harm are sometimes okay when they're included, but that's the art, the fashion, the event piece. Self-harm scars are always fine and okay, and there's something that, in my opinion, should be more more accepted by society. There we go. Words are difficult. So it's not something we should consider triggering in any case because, it's just a scar. People have them. We need to be willing to accept that. And as a reminder, Menhera is not for everyone. It is meant for the chronic health and mental health community first and foremost. And if it's not something that you personally want to wear and find that something that you like you don't have to. It's meant to be very specific. I probably should have put this slide first, but here we have lovely Lou, who we just saw a few moments earlier, wearing some fantastic outfits. But even though these outfits feature medical motifs, they are not Menhera. They are Irokei and Guro Kawaii, as self-described by him. So just kind of showing you some of the more what makes Menhera is just whether or not it's an event art piece and not necessarily the motifs it has. And here too, again, on the Menhera makeup, here we've got Daniel Creepy wearing a really fun Guro Kawaii makeup look. And here you've got me and Mensera-chan wearing simple light makeup with our Menhera coordinates. The idea being if someone has sensitive skin or has mobility issues, you don't want to use a makeup look that would be difficult for them to be able to do themselves. Now that said, while there are no Menhera makeup specifics, a lot of people like to use the Byojaku makeup, which is this red under the eye look that kind of makes you look like you've got like puffy eyes, like you've been crying or something. And this is a fairly simple look here, and I've included a YouTube playlist that features a lot of tutorials for this look, and FY Menhera also has some tutorials for adjusting the looks for darker skin. It kind of boils down to just using more pigmented colors and understanding your base tones. So you might have a little more of a purple tone than a red tone, but it's about the same thing. And if you want this link later, just send me a message and I can send you a link to this presentation. So whenever I say, oh, you're not supposed to wear a lot of makeup in Menhera, I usually get a lot of pushback on that from people who are chronically ill, mentally ill, and use makeup as a way to self-express. And they're not able to go out maybe, or for some, they have this mobility issues with clothing, but they're still able to do makeup. And the reason that we don't have heavy makeup in Menhera is because every part of it needs to be accessible to as many people as possible first. And the idea is we want to keep those accessible, simple looks at the core of Menhera so that people don't have to make modifications to the fashion to fit in. Instead, the fashion has made modifications to fit them. Whereas with every other style, it's usually focused on what the able-bodied person is able to do first, and then everybody with accessibility issues has to modify it. Menhera is not like that. The default needs to be accessible to keep from othering those people. And my own personal example is the last few years, I ended up struggling with severe back pain all of a sudden, really terrible. I couldn't wear anything that was even just a little bit of pressure on my back at all. And so I suddenly was unable to wear 90% of my wardrobe. But I was still able to wear the Menhera clothing I already had because the Menhera clothing was designed with accessibility in mind. And for me, for someone who really values my wardrobe and values being able to wear things that I like, it was really difficult to suddenly not be able to wear most of my wardrobe, and the Menhera garments I could still wear were a great comfort. So this is an example of the accessibility of Menhera being a boon for even just me who didn't have any issues before. And as a side note, I did get surgery, and I'm a lot better now, thankfully. Yay! can wear things. And Menhera does not own self-expression through fashion and art. My camera battery just died. Well, we'll fix that in a moment. Menhera does not own self-expression. Menhera is a way to self-express, and you can self-express however you want. There are many fantastic styles that feature themes of self-expression with makeup and with complicated styles. So you don't have to stick with Menhera to self-express. I think the goal should always be what you find accessible to you to self-express first, and then find the words to describe that style later. You don't have to do Menhera. You can do Living Doll is another great one that's very heavily focused on self-expression through the use of makeup. Very fantastic style. Toshi's done some really great talks about it, about how using your face as a canvas for your feelings can be very, very great way to vent. Gurokoi, Urokoi, Medikoi are other similar styles where if you just kind of like the aesthetic of Menhera, or the aesthetic of more medical things, but you don't want to stick to casual. See if that fixed my camera. Okay, it did. Yay. So yes, always look for how you want to self-express first and what you feel good in, and then find the words to describe that fashion and style later. Like first and foremost, think about what it is that makes you happy first. It doesn't have to be Menhera. It can be whatever makes you happy. All right, so now that you know what Menhera is, here's some about the Menhera community. So I mentioned a little bit before, Menhera is primarily a activism community in Japan for the betterment of mental health and chronic health issues in Japan. So this is menhera.jp. This is the main meeting ground website for Menhera Japan. This is the core of what Menhera is. And as you can see, it's not very aesthetic. It is articles from people who live with mental health or chronic health issues talking about their life. It's articles about things like art galleries, get-togethers. They will work together to do different activism. For example, they banded together to get fake health websites that incorrectly listed LGBT as mental illness. They were getting those sites taken down. They banded together to do that. So this is Menhera. Everything, the aesthetic and style and fashion are all just little sub bits of it, of the real core of the issue. So here, this is Menhera exhibit. This is the main Menhera art gallery, art show, I guess rather. I believe it is a yearly, or periodically happens. It is hosted by event artist Aoyuni, and I've got her Twitter right there. She breaks societal norms by being open about her health struggles, even tweeting while she's in the hospital. And again, this is something that does not happen in Japan. They do not look highly upon this, and they do fire people for talking about their health issues and being open about their health issues in all forms of work. This is the oldest Menhera exhibit, and they highlight event art from lots of Japanese designer, and each exhibit sees thousands of visitors each time they run it. It's fantastic. You can see we've got some Menhera-chan art here, and this is actually Menhera-chan kind of started off with some of its popularity in the Menhera exhibit. So FY Menhera, they are your #1 English source for everything Menhera. They translate articles into English from menhera.jp and other Menhera-related sources, so it makes it very accessible to people like me who cannot understand Japanese. They have an FAQ on many Menhera topics, such as the makeup that I mentioned before, and we featured one of their illustrations at the beginning as well. They reblog Menhera art and coordinates and are a good way to keep in touch with the Japanese shops, which can be Menhera shops in general will kind of pop up for a little bit and go away because often they're made by people who are Menhera and have chronic health or mental health issues and can't be running a shop 24/7. So your number one source for anything in English is FY Menhera right here. So some other online communities, the Japanese community is also active on Twitter, and if you as a Westerner are looking to interact with them, your best bet is typically on Twitter. The Western community has a Menhera Discord that's run by FY Menhera. There was a small 4chan community at some point, but I don't really know what's happened to it. I haven't kept up with it. And then I run 2 Menhera Facebook groups on Facebook, and I forgot to update these banners. They're actually called Menhera Chatbox and Menhera Sales and Discussion, or Menhera Chatbox and Menhera Updates now. So I gotta fix that later. You can find us on there. We're pretty chill. It's not extremely active, but everybody in there is very supportive whenever anybody posts a coordinate or something like that, and it's a good place to go for advice as well. All right, so on to the icons and brands. So Menhera has a very large, there is a large music community for Menhera with a lot of musicians and bands and idol groups supporting it and a lot of fans in that community. I'm a little less connected and I know a little less about the music side of Menhera. So I highly recommend you check out FY Menhera for more on that. But here I've listed a few Menhera / Yami Kawaii bands of note on the side, or musicians. There's also a big Vocaloid community in both the West and the East for Menhera music. And Menhera Gathering is a Menhera-specific music festival held by the visual K band Archite. And you'll see a lot of visual K bands will also produce some specific Menhera music, or occasionally do a Menhera album. So they are huge in the music scene. So on the fashion side, we have Kwa Yasumi. She's considered kind of the grandmother of the most common Menhera silhouette, because she popularized the styling of the oversized tops / dresses with artwork, and the subtle or minimal short skirts with thigh highs. She started styling models that way for photo shoots, and it became very popular with the community. And she also does Menhera art herself, and some fantastic work. Like, look at this. I love this. It's so great. And you can find her on the usual Twitter and Instagram. So the most well-known in the West Menhera icon, probably the most well-known Menhera icon, is Menhera-chan by Izaki Bizoku. Menhera-chan started as a satire magical girl. It previously featured wrist-cut transformations, though those got removed later as it became more popular and an exaggerated setting. And the idea behind it was a event piece by Izaki Bizoku. He was frustrated with people using kawaii subculture to say, oh, look, if I'm cute, if I'm kawaii, well, I can't have any problems, and I don't have to address any of my chronic health or mental health problems, and I can just ignore them. And I can ignore the mental health or chronic health issues of people who wear kawaii styles because, oh, if they're kawaii, well, there's no way they can have any issues, right? So Izaki Bizoku was frustrated with that and said, I'm going to take your kawaii magical girls and I'm going to turn them on their side, and I'm going to make you look at these issues with the magical girl. So it was really truly an event piece that it started out. And it did go a little more heavier on the darker satire in the beginning, but that stuff got taken out as the manga became more popular. So on that note, Izaki Bizoku, the creator of Menhera-chan, as a note, he does not consider himself part of the Menhera subculture or activism, and has been distancing himself from the Menhera subculture, which is a little frustrating because he started out at things like the Menhera Art Gallery I showed you before. So he definitely knows about the Menhera community, and the Menhera community is a big part of his success. But instead, he's chosen to kind of distance himself from that to try and form his own brand. He is a gay man living in Japan, and that is not easy. So he has real Menhera struggles. And he has made Menhera accessible to people in the West by collaborating with brands such as Listen Flavor and AC/DC Rag those works are more accessible because the smaller Japanese brands often don't ship to the States or international. Now, on that note, he has done some harm for the Menhera community. He's purposely spread harmful misinformation, which really sucks because people see him as some sort of Menhera figurehead. So when he comes out and says things like, he said that Menhera is a bad word, which it's not. It's from mental healther, the English word, and spread this misinformation. All of these people who don't know any better take that word as gospel, and that causes harm to the real Menhera community, because the real Menhera community has been trying to fight against having their word that they created to self-describe taken and turned into a slur, basically, and taken and turned into a negative. And when he says things like, oh, Menhera is a bad word, well, that makes the work of the Menhera community double, because now they have to go and fight against all that misinformation again. He also trademarked Yami Kawaii, and people working alongside him have issued takedowns against other indies. This is like trademarking goth and then issuing takedowns against people who've trademarked goth. Like, come on. And he's also reacted immaturely when criticized. As you can see here, this is a drawing he did of his characters in a tank running over people who have tried to call him out. There's some other controversy things that he's done as well that I don't quite feel like getting into in this chat, but the TLDR is while you can enjoy his work and you can understand that a lot of his work is Menhera, please don't listen to anything he says about Menhera. Don't listen to him. just don't listen to him. Listen to other sources like menhera.jp and FY Menhera for your actual Menhera information. But I'm not saying you have to boycott him or anything. Like, you can still enjoy his work if you want to. So the second most popular Menhera character is the brown, what we call brown hair Menhera-chan. She is just called Menhera-chan. It's again like calling a character goth girl. It's not something that's like super unique or trademarkable, but we needed a way to distinguish them. So this was a slice of life Menhera-chan. It originally was very popular for having a very relatable character, and it's especially popular in China. You'll see lots of people in China cosplaying brown-haired Menhera-chan. And she gained her popularity from these small little comics like I've got up on the screen here, little daily life comics of what it's like to be a younger brother of someone with a lot of mental health issues. And there started a manga, and unfortunately, though, the manga has become a very more crazy girlfriend story instead of a nice slice of life Menhera-chan story. So the Menhera community doesn't quite like it as much anymore for that reason, because it's like, oh, you could have showed real Menhera, but you didn't. But that's okay. Still out there, still something you should know about. And this is Pomo, the creator of Menhera-chan. She usually posts her work up on Twitter, and here's her Twitter if you want to go follow her and check out that stuff. So this is my favorite Menhera-chan out of the ones that I've seen. This is the earliest, the Menhera community, mostly FY Menhera, thought, hey, kind of just show to people that there are a lot of Menhera-chans, and it's not just Izaki Bazokos. Let's see how early we can find a Menhera-chan. And this is the earliest one that we came up with, and it dates back to 2012, so early. There is an English fan translation online, and you can buy a copy of it on amazon.co.jp. Unfortunately, the original author, Kotaha Toko, died in 2018, which is super sad. I found that out while updating. I found that out like right after finding the English translation and being all like, oh, I can read it. Oh, it's so good. And then it's like, oh, the author is dead. Oh, no. But I love this comic a lot because it features like a slice of life interactions with a Menhera-chan and a Byojaku-chan. So a Menhera-chan who is like a character who they're mostly focused on their chronic health, their mental health issues. And the Byojaku-chan is a character who's like very chronically ill all the time and sickly and taking a lot of medication. So here we have Menhera-chan. Menhera-chan's friend is trying to convince Menhera-chan to go outside and do like a quote-unquote normal activity, and Menhera-chan is coming up with more and more elaborate ways that everything could go wrong, and I find it kind of curious. And then we've got Byojaku-chan here on the right, showing off like very, just being a her normal cheerful self, showing off all of the medication she has to take today, and it's like a lot. And you can see that the audience stand-in character is a little overwhelmed by like, wow, she has a lot she has to do every day just to live. But this comic, I look up the English translation online. It's really lovely. It has its whole little plot about like this male character who's interacting with these two, like first being like kind of surprised and taken back by some of what they say and how they have to live. But it goes through a whole arc of him kind of like accepting them for who they are, and just them also learning how to interact with him, which is pretty cool. Let's see, I don't think I can. Well, we'll go to the next slide. All right, so now I'm into some brands, and hold on, I'm gonna just deal with this guy real quick. Let me delete this. I don't usually use this view. Somebody might have to get that for me. So one note with the brands is a lot of the Japanese brands are very, very small, very indie, and can be difficult for us in the States to necessarily know about. So this is some of the brands we're talking about here comes from a very Western view, which take it. So there's probably plenty of other brands that are just as good that we don't necessarily have access to, who may have just had popped up and had an online presence for a short amount of time. So here's one of the brands, Nemotai. They've been around for a long time. They also have my favorite color scheme, which is the black and white with the touches of red. They feature a lot of suicide and depression themes, and they were also one of the earliest brands that you could kind of get out in the West because they sold out of Village Vanguard. This is my personal favorite brand, Blah Blah Hospital. They are very different than your standard fare, but very clearly, obviously, event pieces with event text, and all of the garments look kind of like they've been like slapped together with scraps and things like that. And they're very wild and out there and very, very, they feel very venty. I love it. My favorite. Love it so much. So the most popular characters, Western-based, are Parfum and Lavender. They're twins who work at a medically themed cafe, maid cafe, and volunteer at a hospital. There's no real set comics like them, but there have been lots of little snippets like this posted by their creator, Cherry Cheesy. And they've just been loved by everybody. And this is their creator, Cherry Cheesy. They've gone through a few different names, but they are, I believe, back to Cherry Cheesy now. And they were previously the most prominent Western Menhera designer, and I would argue that they were probably second as far as providing Menhera garments to people, second to only Listen Flavor, in my opinion. And they might even still be, just by the amount of people who own Cherry Cheesy garments still. But they unfortunately no longer design Menhera fashion. You can still get some of their old designs on their Redbubble, I believe also under Cherry Cheesy, but no more of their more bespoke designed items like the thigh highs. Even still today, if you see someone with a Menhera coordinate, there is a 90% chance that they're wearing Cherry Cheesy thigh highs. Cherry Cheesy did a lot of really high quality work featuring a lot of themes, motifs in the Menhera community, and were very accessible. And this is just an artist who's from the States producing high quality work. Really love all of her stuff. I think even if she doesn't produce clothing anymore, her current work is still fantastic. So this is another sort of meme Menhera icon. Menhera was kind of a meme because a lot of the Menhera community members had hamsters or had interest in hamsters. So Hoshi Dreams came up with this cute little Menhera character to kind of describe that. And look how adorable, so cute. And Menhera was quickly very loved. Oh, look, we got a Menhera emoji, a Menhera emoji right there in the chat. Look at that. Menhera became particularly loved by the Menhera community in Europe and then spread later down, and is one of my personal favorites, of course. Created by Hoshi Dreams, who is now a Yume Kawaii designer / VTuber. They don't make as much Menhera anymore, but they instead work to better everybody's mental health by creating a community that is a loving and kind community that can be a safe space for people to enjoy. And they still have on their old blog lots of clarifications and think pieces on Menhera that are fantastic, extremely well worded, and still hold up just as good today as they did when they were written. And this person, aside from FY Menhera, I also get a lot of information from Hoshi Dreams on that is in this panel. So really this panel is just me regurgitating things that Hoshi Dreams has said and that FY Menhera has said, but put in a panel for you. And Hoshi Dreams will be will be presenting his own panel later today and will be part of the parasocial panel in a few hours as well. So zombie unicorn, this just like how I said with cherry cheesy, if you saw somebody wearing thigh highs in Menhera, they were probably cherry cheesy. If you see somebody wearing a polymer band-aid hair piece, like 90% chance that it's from Zombie Unicorn. They are a indie designer based in Poland. They started creating polymer clay jewelry for Nurse and Growth themed Lolita in 2014, and then started noticing that they were getting a lot of Menhera customers who were interested in those pieces. So they started crafting pieces specifically for the Menhera community around 2016. And they have a large range of accessories and all sorts of event pieces, all sorts of colors and styles, and really high quality work. They also have been extremely consistent in both their quality and their customer service and their ability to ship, and consistency between, like, you order a product 1 year and you order the same product in a few years. It's very consistent. With Menhera artists, that consistency can be difficult to find because, again, Menhera artists are usually suffering from mental health or chronic health issues themselves and can only produce small amounts of stock. They only have their shop open for small amounts of time, or may only open once and then close and then never open again. That is a common activity. So finding a Menhera jewelry maker who is very consistent is difficult, and people have rewarded Zombie Unicorn for that by continuing to get more goodies from them. So love their work. Go check it out. They will do customs sometimes, so you can get exactly that piece you want from them even. So here's some more of their work. So good. See, and you can see these very, very vent art pill pieces here. So they recently did some more vent pieces that are like little people with like different heads. I love it. So good. So there's me. I put myself on my own presentation because I can. Nobody can stop me. So this is my brand, Puvitel. My shop motto is that fashion can help people. And I'm active in the Menhera communities online in the West. I've managed to get Kimura Yu and Toshi to wear my Menhera pieces. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And I make a point of every convention that I go to, if I'm there as a guest, I require that they let me present this Menhera panel. Because personally, I feel that Menhera is such a great and accessible style, and it can really, really help a lot of people. So I want everybody who may benefit from it to know about it. So there's me, look at me. I personally had a time in my life where I really needed to be on medication and really put it off till basically the last possible moment, because of the stigma against being on medication for mental health issues. And I wish if I had known about Menhera at that time, I think maybe I wouldn't have struggled as much with that, and maybe I would have made the correct steps sooner. So I'm hoping that by spreading the word about Menhera, and if it really resonates with you and it's something you're interested in, I hope that it can help you too. And then I think that's it. Yes. So questions. I think we have just a few more minutes. Oh, I closed my, I can't get back to my schedule tab. I know what I can do. I can look at this. Yes. We have 15 minutes. Oh, all right. I rushed through that pretty quick. Well, do you guys have any questions or comments for me? Any particular aspect you'd like me to go over in more detail, or maybe a brand or designer you're interested in that I didn't mention? Because there are many, 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 many fantastic Menhera designers that I ran out of space. Whoops. So how do I want to see the Menhera community grow? That is a good question. It's kind of difficult to know because, so the Lolita community will put on a lot of events and do meets, even if there's only a small group of people in an area, whereas the Menhera community may not be able to do that because a lot of those people have chronic health and mental health issues. I think I just kind of like I'm kind of happy with where the Menhera community is, in the sense that the people who are in Menhera, I want them to have a comforting and good space where they can express themselves. Um, I think more of my real goals are for people outside of the Menhera community. I would like for more people to know what Menhera really is, so that we stop mistagging things as Menhera, and that we are more aware of the issues that the Menhera people have, and like nobody is going around and telling, stop telling Menhera that they're too gory or whatever. I'd like to break down all of the misconceptions that have been spread by other people. That would probably be my number one desire to see for the community. Like, I don't know why, but there's this thing where like there are lots and lots of people who will be looking for something to make content about, who don't know anything about Menhera, who will then try to present on Menhera and say all sorts of wrong things. And it's so frustrating because then it creates more misinformation, which floods out all the correct information and makes it more difficult for us to come back and say, no, 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 no. So I'd like to see less of that. I think the Menhera community as it is, I think as we continue to make it a good and caring community where you can express yourself safely, we'll just see people who need that time and space come into that space. So somebody is asking if there's a substyle of Menhera or motifs focusing on therapy rather than medication. Yes, so I covered this right at the beginning, so I think you might have missed it there. But Menhera can be anything that is vent art, anything that causes you stress, anything that is something you spend a lot of time thinking about. You can make a vent piece on this. It can be a physical illness, it can be mental illness, it can be something simple like, oh, school is really stressing me out, so I made a vent piece about how I hate doing homework. That counts as Menhera. Menhera is not limited to any particular motifs or themes or at all. Anything that affects your mental health and your mental headspace in any way can be done Menhera. I've seen, let's see, some cool things. I mentioned there are a lot of lesbian, specifically Menhera pieces, because in Japan, LGBT people are treated very poorly there. So there's a lot of Menhera that features LGBT themes, for example. I keep meaning to do a coordinate around being annoyed at birth control and periods, because that's what I want to do. I've seen some other coordinates on very specific things like fidgeting. I saw somebody do a coordinate that was themed on testosterone because they were having to take testosterone shots. I thought that was cool. So really anything that stresses you out, you can make a vent piece on it. It doesn't have to be limited to medication at all. So does Menhera get confused with drug abuse styles rather than recovery and addiction? So I don't exactly know what you mean by drug abuse styles, but you definitely see people who do like yandere nurse cosplays, where they might feature some stuff like taking too many pills or taking unsafe pills, and will mistag that as Menhera. And then people do get confused by that. So I would say yes, we see some of that. It is frustrating, because Menhera is about destigmatizing things like medication, not adding to the stigma by saying that people who the idea is that taking pills is normal, and a lot of normal good people have to take a lot of pills on a daily basis because that's just how their bodies are. That's what they need, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we do see that confusion sometimes, and it can be frustrating. So any more? I hope I answered those questions well, but feel free to ask more questions if you want me to elaborate, or if I didn't quite get what you were meaning. I think we still have, we can also, we're into our buffer time now, so we can also, yes. People will assume things sometimes, but one of the parts of Menhera is you can sort of have, it sometimes invites that conversation with people of saying, oh no, actually this is not what this is about. I've had a lot of conversations about my anxiety angels theme in particular because it has in the background, it says I hate myself and I want to die. And I don't actually hate myself and I don't actually want to die, but those are like the kind of intrusive thoughts I have. So my thought by putting it on the piece is to be like, oh, I'm sick of these intrusive thoughts. I want somebody else to deal with them. So I'm going to put them in my art. And then when people will talk to me and be like, whoa, why have you put that on a shirt? You shouldn't be encouraging that. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is my reality of living with these intrusive thoughts. You know, I don't believe them, but this is what it is. And it allows you to have that conversation. So good and bad. And then there's always going to be people who are just not going to listen to you. And sometimes you just have to shrug them off and be like, all right, well, this is not for you. Right, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute for questions, and then I'm gonna close and let the next panel start, which I hope isn't another one that I'm on, so I can change. See if I can find where to click everything. There we go. All right, well, I'm not seeing any more questions. I hope you guys will enjoy that panel. Feel free to reach out to me. Oh, I have 1 more question. My favorite Menhera coordinate. This is a tough one. I don't know. I feel like a lot of my Menhera coordinates have been very thrown together last minute, which is Menhera in itself, really. The dream coordinate I want to do is I want to make a bunch of red pill themes and do a birth control / hating my periods coordinate, which would be nice. But I got on like birth control that doesn't give me periods anymore now. So my venting and my hatred for that has grown a little dim. I'm very proud, of course, of the anxiety angel piece I did. That was a very personal piece for me, and I hand drew that, and that took a lot of time to do. So I am very proud of that. And I'm also proud of, I mean, you don't make something and slap it on a bunch of shirts if you're not proud of it, but most comfy and accessible look then, let's see. Probably the anxiety angel look I was wearing back here. Oh, it's all the way in the back. Oh no, what have I done? Okay, here we go. Because this one was a baggy shirt and sweatpants and flats and very easy and comfy and accessible. But really, all of the Menhera is accessible and comfy. All right, well, with that, I think I'm going to close it off so we can give a little bit of buffer time for the next up panel. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the panels today. And thank you for listening to me talk about a thing that I like for so long. I'll see you in more panels tonight because I'm in too many panels. All right, let's click. There we go.